Can hear. Yeah,
Righto, mate.
got it.
Good to go,
Nice.
mate.
Yeah, good to go. Easy.
So welcome to Chats with Chocky, Leigh Stalker. Thanks heaps for jumping on, brother.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah, honored to have you here, mate. You're always such a mystery man walking around the gym floor. So I feel like I'm going to get to know you a bit more here and uncover some of the mystery that Leigh Stalker holds.
Classic.
Yeah.
I feel like this mystery has been applied to me, mate. I'm a bit of an open book, so it's classic. Just mind my own
Yeah,
business. Yeah,
that might be
yeah.
why, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
A bit of a paradox. Minding your own business, but an open book.
Too good. Too good. Yeah, no, it's
Mate,
good to be here, mate. Thanks for having me on. It's I've been watching the progress happen, and it's inspiring, man. So yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you.
thanks, mate.
Mm.
First of all, I want to dive into a bit of how you got to where you are now. Obviously, for those
hmm
who don't know Leigh, he's been a gym owner, an Ironman. You on the yachts for a bit. Now, a bit of traveling recently with yogi and stuff like that. I'll let you
hmm
go deeper with that, but quite a life, eh?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, like everyone, I guess, like everyone,
Yeah.
we've got our story and our journey, that's for sure. But
Mm.
yeah, I guess in the sort of health and wellness world, it's a little bit of a different one. Yeah, so basically, I've sort of had two careers, really. Like I've worked in health and fitness for an extended period of time, and then also worked in the marine industry for almost 2 decades now. So it's between those two different careers, I've sort of jumped back and forth, and it's taken me to some pretty great places and met some pretty amazing people, um, and been really fortunate enough to do some pretty cool stuff too. So
Mm.
it's been brilliant. Yeah, yeah. So pretty much with the marine side of things, I just fell into it when I was about 21 after coming back from traveling. Did the whole 18 Aussie thing. I'm going to
Mm.
disappear for a couple of years and went to Central America and Southeast Asia and a bit of Europe. And when I got back to Australia, we just wanted to continue that traveling vibe, going. So
Mm.
landed up in northern Queensland and onto boats and became a dive instructor and then skipper and engineer and then ended up spending a bit of time going around the Pacific Islands
Wow.
on all different types of boats, doing all different types of stuff. So really, really
Yeah.
fortunate there. Yeah.
They're always fun
Um,
jobs, hey, on the boat, cruising around, same group of people for a while. You really get to know your crew, hey?
oh, absolutely, mate. Yeah, yeah. That's the thing with going to sea. You have to yeah, you have to have the right team dynamics for it to all go
Mm.
smoothly and successfully. And then also too, when it doesn't go well out at sea, it's your teammates that you're relying on to get the best case scenario out of a bad situation sometimes, or out of a challenging
Mm.
situation. So, yeah, it's very much as I sort of started becoming a skipper and managing the cruise and setting up the expeditions and all that type of stuff. It becomes very, very clear that the individuals within your team are your biggest assets, and
Mm.
managing those individuals is the biggest challenge. And then also getting the best out of everybody as an individual and as a team uh,
Mm.
also becomes the most challenging, but for me personally, the most rewarding.
Yeah, for
Definitely,
sure.
yeah, for sure.
What was one of the most
Yeah,
challenging things with the crew, managing people on yachts?
yeah, mate, just the standard, just this. You've seen
Yeah.
Below Deck, haven't you? Just the
Yeah.
just the standard behavior for people, it's really interesting. So when you're out at sea, they've actually done some pretty decent studies on it. And for long-term mariners, so the guys that are living on container ships some of these guys are on there for like 6 months. Um, they actually end up with similar psychological issues as inmates in prisons. So if you think
Wow.
about it, yeah, if you think about it, you're in a confined space, you're eating to a schedule, there's a clear hierarchy amongst all the crew, so you're being told what to do. You have to ask permission to do everything, and you can't leave. You're stuck on a boat in the middle of the
Yeah.
ocean. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's actually can be, even after a week at sea on a beautiful yacht with great team and you're getting well looked after, you still have these you still have these things that you have to battle with on a daily basis, and then you start adding fatigue to that. You start
Mm,
adding, poor health to that. You know, you start adding potentially like 3 months away from their partner or their
mm.
family. People start to get a little bit a little abrasive every now and then, and you just have to manage it all. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Is that
but it's
sort of
very
what?
rewarding.
Yeah, I'd
Mm,
imagine it would be. I was about to
mm,
say, is that how it got you into the health and fitness space? Because you could, you get a bit of leadership skills from that job, and you're like, oh, I could probably help people in another
mm.
field.
Yeah, it's a good question. So the two overlap really, really well. So I got into the health and fitness stuff because just when I was young, I was just a fitness, and sporting nut. Um, so I'd played sport for a long time, and then when I got onto the boats and started teaching scuba diving, I actually really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the teaching part
Mm,
of being a scuba dive instructor. And just coincidentally at the time, um, my partner started training at a gym in Cairns that had classes, and I'd never done class training or never really been in a gym much, at all
mm,
really, just other than throwing the occasional weights around with my brother or something. So I
mm,
went along to one of these classes and just absolutely loved the environment and sort of really enjoyed it. So I started attending the classes from consistently, and then they had a bit of a coaches development program available to members. So I jumped on that, and then yeah, realized that this is something I wanted to do, and jumped
mm.
all in,
Yeah.
and then ended up maintaining a full-time skipper's job and a full-time coach's job at the same time. Um,
Far out.
for quite a while, but it was yeah. So I sort of fell into being a skipper and fell into being a coach. But absolutely love them both. But
Mm,
these days, heading towards coaching more, spending more time coaching and helping other people. Um, just because it's at this time of my life, like I'm 38 now, I'm finding that's far more fulfilling, far more rewarding than the adventurous stuff that I spent in my 20s doing.
mm.
So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting,
Mm.
hey, because you love both of them, but doing so much is one's got to give eventually, hey. Did it go
Yeah,
the
for
other way
sure.
for a bit too? Did it go to the yachting way and then it's swayed back and forth?
Yeah, for sure. Like there's always that
Yeah.
pull to go off and do adventurous stuff, you
Yeah.
know. But
I
here's the
know.
thing, like when you yeah, yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like doing an Ironman, right? So when you set yourself a substantial goal or a substantial undertaking, which, going out to sea and doing expedition yachting and things like that, it's a substantial undertaking. Doing an Ironman, for example, is a substantial undertaking. And what where they both have parallels is there's a cost to any
Mm,
substantial undertaking, and often that cost is your friends, your family, the time that you spend with them, sometimes even the resources that you need to allocate, like your energy and your health and well-being and your finances and things like that. So when you go and do these big expeditions, there is always a cost to people that you care about too, and you can simplify it this easily. If you're choosing not to be here, you're choosing to be somewhere else, right? So everybody in your
mm,
family and relationships and things like that you care about deeply, they have to make peace with you being away all the time. And that's a cost that, after 15 years or so, I started not being happy with. So
mm.
hence why I'm spending more time on land and coaching now. And then you think about when you do an Ironman, like you've done the long distance triathlon stuff, there's a cost. Like you're having those conversations with your partners and things like that. "Oh, I've got to get on the bike. I
Mm,
can't go out. I can't go out for dinner tonight because I'll be up early tomorrow." Like so,
mm,
just that's really why I sort of focus more on being on land, being at
mm.
home, establishing community now, and jumping into that, and
Yeah.
finding fulfillment in that more than doing the cool stuff like you know going to the Solomon Islands or you know
Yeah.
climbing
Yeah.
mountains and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Nice work listening to the pulls and the shifts as well. A lot of people you can just stay in that sort of like not stagnation, but there's resistance that you're just always meeting resistance until you listen to it. So
Mm.
um
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's rewarding, right? See, that's the part too, and it can be
mm,
sort of self-propelling. So the adventure stuff is highly addictive. It's super
mm,
fun. Everyone's
yeah.
been like most people have been traveling and backpacking. They know that it's a lot of fun. Well, when you get paid to do that, it's it's become sort of easier to do.
Mm,
Um, and it's definitely it can become a bit of a loop in a way. We used to call it the golden handcuffs. You know, you get
Yeah.
paid to go and do something cool, and then you justify. You know, every season you'd be like, "Oh, I'll just do one more season. It's all right. I'll just do one more season." But you can only do that for so long before you have to make a shift. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
And the shift for you was that you just really miss like your family and stuff like that, you were saying? And
Yeah,
you,
definitely. Well, yeah. Well, the good thing about being out at sea is that you spend so much time by yourself, particularly when you're the captain. You spend a lot of
mm,
time just sitting on the bridge, just thinking it out. And I just started assessing the recurring, the recurring patterns in my thoughts and
mm,
feelings and behaviors, and started realizing, oh yeah, right, this is I still enjoy this. It's still
mm,
a rewarding thing that I do, but it's not as rewarding and not as fulfilling as when I'm home. It's being a good partner, being a good friend, spending time with those people on land, and sort of like engaging in a community. So
mm.
that's where the shift came for me. But that I think it might be a natural thing. You just sort of start to age. Um,
Yeah, it
but
could be. It could be.
yeah,
But a lot of years of travel, you're away from people a long time. It's only due for it.
yeah, absolutely. I think
Yeah.
the key part is once you acknowledge something, is acting on it, acting on it
Mm,
in a timely manner. Now, you can't always just act on good stuff straight away. Sometimes it has to be a bit of a process in order for you to be able to pull it off, successfully. Um,
mm.
you don't just want to burn bridges and all that type of stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, it's like that's the key part. Once you decide on something new, it's
Mm.
the other part's acting on it.
Yeah. And it's a little bit of
Mm.
like an identity shift, right? Like Lee's the Marine, he's the skipper. So you've got to pull away from that a little bit. He's back to the coach.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. For sure, for sure. It's yeah, definitely, you definitely ask the questions of like, well, if I'm not going to be a mariner anymore, I'm not going to be a captain, well, who am I going to be and what's that look like?
Mm,
But what's really interesting, you come to the next question then it's like, well, why am I identifying with my job role? You
mm,
know, like, is that actually a proactive way to move through your weeks and through your life? You know, does it serve me and the people in my community and in my family as well? Like, so, what are you identifying with? Should it be what you do for work? Maybe. Should it not be? Maybe. I guess it depends on the individual. Mm.
mm. Do you feel like you have an identity sort of inbound at the minute in that regard? You feel like you have one set?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Mm,
That's a really good question, man. It's a really good question. So, uh, for me, I've gotten really clear on what I value most,
mm,
like what I really care about, and what I back up with my behaviors and my choices. And over the last 4 years, it's been for some people, it's been there's been an opportunity present to really determine what you care about and how much you care about it. And for me, I've found it very, very transparently that I care very much about health, wellness, and helping other people
mm,
establish the fundamentals and the basic protocols that really support day-to-day operating, and
mm.
enjoyment. Really, so
Yeah.
that's what I care about most. So, how do I identify with that? The big part of what I believe in and what I'm teaching now is just being you, like being you, being congruent with what you value most, um, and just being proud of who you are and the good things, the bad things, um, and just giving yourself a chance to work through them, um, and improve where you can. So I guess I identify with who I am, and also who I want to be.
Mm,
Not so much about what I do for work. So
mm,
who's Leigh? Not necessarily coach. Leigh's just Leigh, you know.
mm.
So yeah, it's been a bit of a shift, which is nice because it gives yourself a bit of breathing space to
Yeah.
to explore, try things, um, and just be human. Really, like we all evolve as time goes on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
man. That's
Mm.
it's for a coach to identify with being a coach, it becomes like the archetype of the coach all the time, and you never give yourself permission to, have a beer, do whatever, you always have to be on, and then you end up burnt out as well. So
Hmm.
it's nice to not identify with your profession in that way, I think. Big
Yeah,
shift,
absolutely.
big shift for you there, I think, as well. That's awesome.
Well, coaching's a really good example because, like you say, when you're in that mindset of being a coach, and if you're identifying with being a coach all the time, it's like, well, are you a coach in the gym? Yes. Are you a coach in the kitchen with your partner? Maybe not so much, you know. Um, but are you bringing similar behaviors and similar, masks into different environments and not being consciously aware of that? So, a good
Mm,
example is if I was out at sea for, a couple of months and being a master of the vessel, being the captain, often I would come home and the first few days, the tone of my voice, the vocabulary I was using, my posture, or even like my expectations in conversations, I was being a captain. And
mm,
you can't be a captain to your family, right?
yeah.
So um, it was really interesting, and from living through that, it really highlighted to me. It's like, okay, well, my roles shift depending on who I'm around, what
Mm,
environments I'm in, and my behavior needs
mm,
to be shifting as well. Um, but here's where it gets a bit tricky. At the end of the day, you got to be you. It doesn't matter where you are, you know. And I feel like once you sort of make peace with that, if you can just put yourself forward, whether you're at work, whether you're with your family, whether you're at a social event,
mm,
whether you're on a podcast, whatever you're
mm,
doing, um, there's a really good sense of freedom there.
yeah.
And from my experience now, it's actually it's a radical performance enhancer as well.
Mm.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, I feel the same, especially when you're saying like when you get home, you're not the captain anymore. It's like putting on a new hat. I heard it
Yeah.
from Jim Quick maybe one time. He's like, when you go in your house, put a different hat on. And I
Hmm.
still do it to this day. I try and take my theoretical hat on and off. It's hard sometimes though. So
Oh,
what
it's
would you
hard.
say
Yeah.
to people who who struggle with that?
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. So establish some patterns, establish some supportive patterns in your behaviors, right? So, so you think about a commute, right? So say you've got a 45-minute commute from your work back to your house. You might be like, oh no, I've got this, it sucks having to commute home every day, right? And if you're thinking like that on the way home, you know, well, you're sort of just going to be a little bit frustrated and you haven't done anything about who you are by the time you walk through the front door. But what you actually have is a 45-minute opportunity to decompress, you know, leave your work stuff behind, um, and get in the right frame of mind for you to, achieve what you want to achieve when you get home. So
mm,
say you want to, maybe a goal for 2024 is, all right, I want to I want to really improve that first half an hour when I come home, walk into the house. I want to be fully present for my kids, fully present for my partner, and I don't want to talk about work. I don't want to vent when I get home.
mm,
Just say that's your goal. Um, you've got 45 minutes to maybe put some little routines in place where you can get your venting done, right? You can maybe use some breath regulation stuff to down regulate your system so you're in a more restorative state of mind by the time you walk through the front door. You may even use some affirmations to get yourself into a new state. So when you come through the front door, you might be in a more loving, open, relaxed manner. Um, or you might listen to some music that just allows you to switch off from work straight away and go back into more of a relaxed version of
mm,
you when you walk through the front door. Um, Maybe use that time to visualize the the highlights of your relationship up until this date with your partner or something. So
mm,
you're just reminded that there's a relationship there, not just the Friday night knock off normal routine you've been doing for the last 10 years. So
mm,
it's just about establishing potentially a new perspective and looking for opportunities through your day to put new habit creating skill sets in
mm,
play that support you to behave how you want to behave. Mm. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. It's I think it's Atomic Habits. He says that we're living our habits every day. Everything we do is a habit. So that's why it's
Hmm.
important to recognize those habits, because generally if you're You know, if you're attracting that bad energy, or you're walking into your house and it's frustrating, generally it's because of the habits you have that go
Hmm.
toward that. Because there can be chaos in the house and you can not react and it can be a great time. You can just
Yeah.
laugh it off and let it go. Or you could go in there and react, and then all of a sudden your kids are angry at you, or your wife or partner, and then
Hmm.
it's chaos, you know? So it's,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, atomic habits is a good one. The there's a there's an incredible sense of freedom and confidence that comes from being able to choose your response to
Mm,
situations. Um, However, I really feel like that's a skill set that gets developed over time. Mm.
mm,
And it requires a little bit of discipline, and really focused attention to develop that skill set. And it's certainly not something I think people can do perfectly. You know,
mm.
maybe if you're a monk living in the
Yeah.
Himalayas where you've got zero
No
stimulus
triggers.
and you're
Yeah.
just like, maybe
Yeah.
you can do it. But you
Yeah.
got a couple of kids flying around and a gnarly boss, and maybe your partner's having a bad day or something. You get confronted with all of this.
Yeah.
It's hard to be perfect, but
Mm,
I think this is a bit of a key ingredient. It's as long as you're genuinely interested and genuinely motivated and focused on being able to choose how you respond to these known aggravating stimuluses. If you're really making a genuine effort, um, that that's a bit of a superpower, I think, because what will happen is when you don't get it right,
mm,
because you've known that you've got it right most of the time and you're really trying your best, you let yourself off the hook a little bit easier,
mm,
And I think that's a real key part with any of this personal development stuff, any of this trying to progress yourself as a person. It's being kind to yourself, but it's also understanding what being kind to yourself is, you
mm,
know, and setting sort of expectations around, okay, well, if I can do this well enough most of the time, um, I'm happy with that, you know.
mm.
But
Yeah.
mm,
It takes
mm,
reps, doesn't it? It's like going to the gym. It takes reps, takes practice. Yeah. I think for me, the
absolutely.
biggest thing that helped with that was journaling as well. Do you find that helps with
Mhm.
your stuff and your clients? Like how to be better? You got to write down your goals and write down your affirmations. Write down who you want to be, and then see
Mhm.
how you're not that person, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's many avenues
Mm,
to the same type of destination,
yeah.
and I think a key part of the exploration in this world is in this side of the world is trying out a lot of different tools and a lot of different systems and a lot of different
Mm,
education pathways that are around this stuff and seeing which one just fits with you best.
yeah.
Seeing which one you can do most consistently and with as much passion as you can. But
Whatever works the
yeah,
most. Yeah.
whatever
Mm,
works the most, it's finding your way forward through this stuff. But yeah, the
yeah.
journaling I think is really powerful, a really powerful activity. Um,
Mm,
if you've got the time and the space to do it, which can be like a bit of a luxury for people with young kids and things like that sometimes.
mm,
But yeah, I think it's a very powerful activity. But what I really like about um, sort of journaling, so
mm,
is to be a bit more detailed about it. So it's like
mm,
have some specific questions that you check in within every day to bookend your day before you go to bed that stimulate you to respond a certain way, right? And the way
yeah.
that you want to respond is in that positive frame of mind and motivated for the next day. So
Mm,
if you do a review of your day and you're journaling a review of your day, which is a really common practice in journaling,
mm,
um, if you review with a negative perspective, that's what you're carrying into bed, right?
mm,
Whereas if you review with almost like an impartial perspective and you see what you've done really well, what you can improve on, and what you're going to nail the next day, what you're going to do really well the next day, what you're focusing on is what you're doing really well, and what improvements you can make versus getting stuck in the mud and being a bit negative. Um,
mm,
because what's well and truly documented now since the early 1900s is positive reinforcement is a far better strategy than negative reinforcement. Um, so I feel like with journaling, you always want to finish, or always want to try and do it with more of a positive perspective, um,
mm,
or acknowledge what you haven't nailed, and then how you're going to nail it going
mm.
forward. I think is a good approach to journaling. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
I love that,
Mm.
mate. I want to dive into your recent travels too, man. There's
Mhm.
106 months, was it? Was it 6 months traveling
Yeah, it's just under
around
6 months.
around
Yeah.
India, and you did your yogi
Mhm.
cert, and then you're trekking through the Himalayas. Talk to me
Mm.
about that, mate.
Yeah, it's brilliant actually. So the going over to Goa to do the yoga teacher training was something that's been on the cards for a long time. Um, but then I just got asked, "Do you want to come over to Goa in January and do yoga teacher training with me?"
No
Uh,
way.
And I was like, you know what? Why not? I'll just say yes and jump in and go. And it was fantastic. So, yeah, spent 28 days doing yoga every day and meditation and some breath work stuff and learning like the ancient philosophies in yoga. And it was a brilliant experience. I highly recommend it to any coach,
Mm.
even coaches that think yoga doesn't work. Before you make that opinion, I would suggest jump into it, do it for a month,
Mm.
and you can find some absolute gold in there, like some
Mm.
absolute gold. Um, yeah, it was really powerful experience. So um, now, what was good about doing that is a couple of months later, I was going to go and climb a 6,000 meter mountain solo. So it was brilliant for while I was doing the yoga for a month. Anytime we're doing meditation, anytime we're just doing mindfulness activities, anytime we're doing pranayama and breath work training, I was thinking about what I had coming up, thinking about the mountain coming up, thinking about the challenges that would present. So having the time, having a whole month to do that was fantastic
Mm.
before heading off into the hills. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you done a bit of yoga, Chop?
Yeah, a little bit. I do want to do my yoga course in Goa
Mm.
too. It's probably the same
Yeah.
one we've been looking at, but it just hasn't been the right time at the minute. I
Yeah.
nearly booked it before COVID, actually. It was one of
Hmm.
those things I was like, oh, I had the button there and I didn't do it. The next day, COVID hit and everyone got locked down. I was like, oh, that was a sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Fair enough.
imagine you would get to know yourself a hell of a lot more through it, through something like that, that challenge of something that's usually probably not in your area,
Mm.
as a strength training sort of athlete, Iron Man. It's quite the
Hmm.
opposite of what you used to, right?
Yeah, it certainly is. It
But
certainly is. Yeah.
yeah, but
Mm.
definitely what we need more of. And like you said, prepared you visually and emotionally, probably spiritually, all that stuff for
Mhm.
that huge climb, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, what
Mm.
was yeah? So, like from a coach's perspective, yeah, like I used to teach Olympic weightlifting and pretty traditional strength conditioning um, type methods, and then gymnastics, and then ultra endurance running. So, like, I was pretty good at
Mm.
keeping everyone busy and keeping everyone pretty
Yeah,
pretty amped up,
pretty
and
yang.
you know pretty pretty inflamed too.
Yeah.
But um, yeah, and myself as well. But
Mm.
what became really apparent quite quickly, like within a week, about 10 days of doing 3 hours of yoga a day and doing a couple hours of meditation a day, is when you feel your body actually start to deeply relax, and when you feel it start to open up. Um, and what I realized is like I was feeling, just things like my elbows and my shoulders and my scapular position and my rib cage and my diaphragm and even deep into my hip flexor group, and I was starting to feel new ranges start to open up with very minimal effort, very minimal effort going in. Sure, I was doing yoga every day. However, a nice approach to yoga is to not go hard into it. You don't push the end ranges. You don't challenge your breath too much. Like you keep it comfortable so your nervous system is comfortable with the new experiences it's going through. Um, but what was quite profound is how quickly your body will respond when you find a deep relaxation within movement. Um, and I let go of some injuries that I'd been carrying around for over a decade. Like
Wow.
sore points in my shoulder and things like that, gone 10 days later. Um, yeah, and it was quite amazing. Um,
Mm.
so you do that for a month, and what you find is what I found was a deeper connection to um, the sensations that your body puts forward. So, like your heartbeat and your breath cycle, and even, the different tension sites within your rib cages and in your diaphragm, and, how for me, it was, how my erectors in my lower back, how they would respond to different postures and different breathing and things like that. And I got a far deeper understanding of how my body as an individual works,
Mm,
um, which was fantastic for when I was up in the mountains and being challenged by altitude sickness and challenged by, I was carrying a 24 kilo pack up there. Um, I was really able to choose a little bit more and understand what my body was doing at different times, you know.
mm,
And it was really advantageous to have a bit more of a yogi perspective in times when my heart rate was through the roof and I could hardly breathe and my quads are
mm.
burning out and all that type of stuff. So it was a very powerful experience. Mm,
Yeah, that's really beautiful, eh?
definitely.
So that would have been I mean, it would have been a completely different experience if you did the yogi after the climb.
Oh yeah.
It would have been,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I imagine it would have. Do you think you would have done it differently? Do you think you would have reacted more up the mountain? Do you think it would have been more um, draining in a way?
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
definitely. Like the state of mind that you carry into that sort of stuff. So I'll give a little bit of, I'll paint the picture a little bit. So it was a solo climb just out of season. So um, you weren't necessarily supposed to be on this mountain at the time that I accidentally found my way up the mountain. Uh, yeah, so it was pretty challenging weather-wise, and there was no support around. So no people around basically. At one stage, the closest person was a shepherd at about 4,000 meters, and at the time, I was about a 2.5 day hike away from that person that may not have even been there anymore by the time I got to him. So um, small things like you roll your ankle up there properly and you can't walk, you're not surviving unless you put your tent up and get in your tent every night. So a small thing like rolling your ankle and having to drag yourself out of there for a couple of days, um, becomes a big thing. Or, if you can't find fresh water because the water source you're going to use is too frozen, it's frozen too hard and you can't break the ice and get water. Things like altitude sickness. So, if you haven't spent enough time acclimatizing to that, you can have blood pressure issues and then you can pass out. And, there's lots of things that can happen that are relatively for normal at sea level or when you're around people are relatively minor. You can take
mm,
care of them, but up there it was pretty high stakes, pretty much almost every step. Um,
mm,
but that's what I was searching for too. I really wanted to go and do something that was going to challenge me every single step. Um, so having had done like a month of yoga and then I actually did a 2 week meditation sort of course after that as well, which was really good. Was absolutely brilliant because there was times when I was climbing the mountain and my heart rate was increasing, my breath was super high off my chest, and I felt like I couldn't get enough air in, so I was starting to like my anxiety was increasing, and then there was times where I was looking, trying to work out where to go, and I didn't know where to go, um, so there was times where I could have easily have allowed myself to get, unregulated and too stressed and not being able to keep my mind together to be able to make quality decisions along the way.
mm,
But having done all the meditation and the breathwork stuff, I was able to utilize basic skill sets to really keep myself focused and keep myself in a state of mind where I had the best chance of making the best decision I could in a challenging time, you know.
mm,
Um, so I was very fortunate to have done the yoga first. Um,
mm.
I think I would have been winging it far more if I had done the yoga first. I would have gone, but I don't know if I would have been as strategic. Yeah,
Yeah, a bit more fight or
yeah,
flighty.
bit more fight or flighty for sure. Yeah, definitely,
I
mate.
mean, that's you prepared yourself for something that was sort of life or death situation, right? Which was,
Mm,
but in the real, I guess in the normal life here, a little bit of meditation, like you're not preparing for this huge hike that's life or death, but you're preparing for life's triggers and, you know, just life in general. So you think about it like a 10-minute meditation will prepare you for walking into a chaotic office or home life and being able to respond there so you don't react and go into that fight or flight. The same as you did 28 days to not react and not
yeah.
get stressed on the mountain, which could have like inevitably created death.
Mm, yeah, for sure. Oh, my little
Mm.
nephew's just walked in the room.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hey, bud. Um, Yeah, it's absolutely like,
Mm,
yeah, you don't need to, this is the other thing. You don't need to do extremes to be able to learn these type
mm,
of skill sets. You can just do, you know, every day what we would consider just a mundane daily task and you utilize them as a meditative experience as well. You can look at like my nephew walking in in the middle of a podcast. There's oh hey bud. You can look at that, like you can choose how you want to respond to that and
yeah.
embrace it or not. But meditation doesn't have to be the lotus position,
Mm,
zoning out, or omming, or and you're playing in the background or anything. And neither does yoga. It doesn't have to be any of that type of stuff. It can just be sitting in your car. You've got 5 minutes, just closing down your eyes, listening to everything around you, just hearing it, and just practicing not responding. Um, it's a really
mm,
interesting activity to do that. So, do you
yeah.
want me to run through it for two
Go
minutes?
for it. Yeah, do it.
Okay, do it. It's
Let's
it's
do it.
this is one of my favorite ones. We don't have to do it probably, but I'll run through the concept for you.
Mm,
It's really basic and it's a very powerful thing. And it's if you've got a heart rate monitor on while you're doing this type of activity, it's very, very interesting.
mm,
Very powerful for athletes, very powerful for everyday people as well. But so basically, you just close down your eyes, you just make your breath nice and relaxed in and out your nose. And oh, who's that? Is that your dad coming in? Classic. And what you do is you close your eyes, and instead of trying not to think or trying not to and trying to be still, you just listen to everything. Just listen to all the sounds. It might be cars, might be the sound of the trees, birds. Um, you might have your aircon on in your car, just anything, all the sounds, and you try and listen to them all at once. And then a nice activity to do is to try and isolate each sound. And then as you do that, you'll find that you'll naturally be able to turn the volume up and down on individual sounds. And then once you're sort of at that stage, you start bringing your awareness in, and you'll be able to, most often, you'll be able to hear your heart rate. You'll be able to hear your heartbeat straight away. And just that nice, simple activity, it really brings your attention inwards and to yourself. And you'll notice straight away that your heart rate will start coming down and your breath will start to relax. And then if you just take a nice deep breath out through your mouth, you'll be in a nicer regulated state, and you'll be able to have a more relaxed view on whatever you're
mm,
about to go into next. So it's a very
mm,
basic activity. Now you can do that doing anything. You can do that making
mm,
dinner, cup of tea, whatever you're doing. Um,
mm,
but here's the key with that one: if you do it consistently throughout your day, you'll actually start to establish that response in your body with those behaviors. So if you do
mm,
that enough while you're sitting in the front seat of your car, waiting to go to work or waiting to walk into or maybe you've just pulled into your driveway before you walk into the house at the end of the day, what will happen when you start driving into your driveway every night? Your heart rate will come down, your state of mind will slowly shift, and it will start becoming a habit to be in that perspective,
mm,
which is great. So
mm,
meditation can be simple and incredibly powerful. Mm.
mm. I really like that one because life is stressful, right? But if you're always looking for the quiet space in a dark room to meditate, because you
Yeah.
can't block out or you can't observe the world without judging it and get reacting, then
Mhm.
you're losing the point of what mindfulness and meditation actually is, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. What's really nice about doing that sound meditation too, is because you're acknowledging the different stimulus that's around you in your environment at the time, and then you're putting a bit of space between you and the stimulus.
mm,
Um, you're already practicing how you're responding, and what will happen naturally
mm,
as well, you will start to realize when you hear a bird, what you'll put into your mind is, oh, that's a crow, or that's a, you know, hey, is that right? Yeah, you'll label the bird. And when you start practicing this for even just a couple of weeks, you'll start realizing that you'll stop labeling what you're listening to.
mm,
So you're hearing something, but it's not even causing a response in you anymore, which
mm,
is really quite interesting. How we label things is often how we respond to them.
mm,
It's how we make sense of them. So if you don't label it, you don't respond to it sometimes, which
mm,
is great. So if you think of that from an athletic perspective, if you are doing these visualizations, these meditations, and you're visualizing when things are going to get really hard, or you're visualizing when your opponent's running past you towards the finish line or something, right?
mm,
What you can start doing is acknowledge, like you can see how you're going to feel. You can feel how you're going to feel because it's just in this hypothetical meditative world, this visualization. You can start actually seeing early how you're going to respond to that, and then you can practice putting some distance between that response and yourself. And then once you've got that distance, you start implanting the response that you want.
Mm,
So you start applying a new label to that situation. And as soon as you start having that control, that's where you can really start putting some awesome behaviors in
mm,
preemptively before you even get hit with a challenging stimulus. Um, how it could apply to a non-athletic life is, say you've got a really, challenging boss, that picks on you, or
mm,
anytime you bring something forward to them, they always give you that instant pushback and, you know, um, don't take your ideas on. Um, or maybe they just say things to you that aren't professional,
mm,
and it's starting to get on you. It's starting to bring you down a bit, make you less motivated, make you not as good at your job, um, and just you're not enjoying your day as much. What you can do when you do these basic meditative drills, like that sound one, for example, is start visualizing the situation, the slight confrontation,
mm,
not responding, keeping that lower heart rate, keeping that lower breath cycle, staying in that relaxed state of mind, and then visualize what you want to do, a supportive action that's going to make you feel proud about how you behave. And then you just start visualizing that, you start practicing it. More than likely, next time you are involved in that situation, you've given yourself the best chance of putting your best foot forward,
mm.
in that situation, which is a very fulfilling
Yeah,
way
that's
to go
freedom.
about things. It's freedom.
That's
Yeah.
freedom.
But it takes some practice,
Yeah,
takes a bit of skill development.
yeah, for sure.
For sure.
I love that
Uh,
observational meditation stuff you just shared. It's beautiful, very
It's
powerful.
very good. I think, like, just like last thing with meditation, I think there's a trap with meditation. It can be escapism.
Mm,
You can use it to pull yourself out of situations, and you can escape real life, so to speak. Now, absolutely, some people may just need to escape their reality momentarily, right? They may just need to. There are people that probably do, right? For sure. But there's plenty of people that don't need to
mm,
escape as well. There's actually plenty of people that need to engage more. So if you find that you've got an established meditation practice, which a lot of yogis do, a good question to ask yourself is this supporting me in my day-to-day life? Am I applying what I'm getting from this meditation in my day-to-day life? And then the next question from that can be, can it support me more? And I feel like that what it does is it brings real efficacy to spending that time meditating. It makes it more valuable, and it also makes you think of it as more of a to
mm,
progression of skill to be able to bring more value from the rest of your life. Because feeling good while you're meditating is one thing. Feeling good while you're doing the mundane, repetitive, day-to-day life stuff is even better.
mm.
Mm.
Yeah, it can be as simple as not looking forward to work and then sitting in meditation and visualizing yourself happy at work. That can be a good start.
Potentially,
Yeah,
yeah, potentially. As long as you're
yeah.
not deluded, like,
Yeah, for
it's all
sure,
right.
for sure. Yeah, for
Mm,
sure.
mm.
Um,
Yeah,
so how does your coaching shift to now? What's sort of how does your coaching look now? Is it one to one, or I know you said you're doing retreats and stuff now too, which is awesome.
yeah. Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a good question. So at the moment, doing one-on-one stuff, and then doing retreats, but also starting to present workshops around, for a whole heap of different facilities, movement facilities, but also, in the corporate side of the
mm,
world too. But my contribution, I guess, to the coaching industry now is, I'm very focused on, uh, mindset, and, help people find congruency in how they're living their day-to-day life. So I
mm,
love movement, love high-level movement coaching. Really appreciate all that, and,
mm,
um, geek out on it still for sure. But what's phenomenal now in our industry is that there is so many great movement coaches around. There's so many men and women that are doing really high level stuff that you can walk into as a PT client, or even in class environment. Like, you can get some really good strength conditioning, some really good flexibility, some really good mobility training now.
mm,
Um, add a lot of facilities around,
Mm,
which is really brilliant. So I want to focus primarily on helping people get to the gym in the first place,
mm,
you know, and then helping people stay there. And um, that's where I'm focusing now. So it's very much more on the mindset stuff, very much more on that habit creation, and then very, very much more focused on working out how individuals can establish these supportive patterns of behavior,
mm,
because that's not a cookie cutter approach. It needs to be for the individual. However, what's really great about us is that we are still just humans, we are still just animals, and we have a very intelligent physical self that there's some techniques, some rules, um, and some knowns uh, on how the body behaves and how the body will respond to certain things and how it will support you or take you further away from being in the right state of mind. So that's where I'm focusing now, which is very, very enjoyable. And
mm.
to be honest, it feels like the greatest adventure I've been on in my life up
Wow,
until this point. Yeah.
that's a
Mm.
big call. It must be part of that, your mission on the earth.
Well, maybe I
It's
think
like,
so,
you
mate.
know,
Like I think so.
mm.
It's yeah, I think so. The thing is, like with people would ask, like, well, I'll ask you. Do you mind if I ask you a personal
Go
question?
for it. You go for it.
All right. Like, why did you do the triathlon stuff? Why did you do a half Ironman?
That was purely, that was to prove to myself that I could accomplish something greater than I thought I could. I had a lot of limitations I had set myself just from where you grow up, I suppose, is like you just be a tradie, you do this and that's it. So I was really trying to break free of that and to prove, and at the time it was to prove to others that I could do awesome stuff too, right?
Hmm.
Bit younger and all that. And now looking back on that, I can clearly see it, but it was a part of my journey as well. So I'm super grateful I did that as well.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Like, was it a fulfilling experience for you?
You know what? It was like that. It was the classic. When you get over the finish line, I was like, cool, what's next? It was as soon as I crossed the finish line, I was like happy. And then I was like, cool, on to the next thing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It was very
Yeah.
strange. And then the next time I did a triathlon, I felt very incongruent with it. I felt like I was purely doing that out of ego just to prove I could do another one.
Hmm.
And I had injuries. I had massive burnout from that. I didn't touch a weight for a month after it because I just felt like my heart rate got up as soon as I walked. So I was like, no, I'm done. I could just feel, I felt very, my life felt rushed and I needed to
Mm.
calm that down.
Dude, you must have given it a fair crack on race day.
It was just hot.
It's just hot. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Fair enough.
I had all these expectations of myself to be really fast and then, I had a certain run time I wanted to get at, but it just wasn't what I was meant to be doing,
Mm.
for sure.
Which is really interesting. Like, yeah, I feel like you know where I'm going with this. It's this is the thing when we're setting goals for ourselves and setting, worthy challenges. Like doing a half Ironman is a worthy challenge. It's a great experience to put yourself through. Like when we're setting these goals, a really good question to ask yourself is, why am I setting this goal? What am I looking to get from it? Um, what am I looking to get every day on the way to achieving that goal from it? You know, um, because you can find a lot of, I see it all the time, you see it in the coaching world all the time, in gym communities. You see people just they'll achieve a goal, and then the next thing is they're just setting themselves another goal, and then another goal, and
Mm,
another goal, and what happens is they end up getting burnt out. They end
mm,
up getting burnt out, so they're chasing this looping pattern of behavior, this achievement pattern of behavior. Now, when you're genuinely fulfilled about something that you've just done, when what you're doing every day is fulfilling and is enough, you don't you don't get to these levels of exhaustion. You don't get to these levels of just completely in, and the cost of that, you know, um, doesn't come with you every day in order to get to your goals. And what I've found is And you just mentioned it then, you had a month off the gym, right?
Mm.
After. What I found that if you can set yourself goals that you're really clear on why you're doing it, what you're going to get from it, and what you're going to get on the way to it, is if that goal doesn't happen, right? So say COVID happens and all of a sudden your Ironman that you've been training 12 months for and had a coach for isn't available to you anymore, right? That
Is
was
that what
me.
happened to you?
That happened to
Yeah.
me, right? Um, what happens though is every single day, every single action, every single commitment you make on the way to that goal is rewarding, is fulfilling. And what you're doing is every day you're creating this pattern of being the person that moves forward towards their targets, behaves accordingly towards their targets. So you're getting far more out of this achieving the goal than just becoming an Ironman.
Mm.
What you're actually potentially developing is a really effective pattern of behavior in order to achieve anything, right? But where it falls off is if you don't know why you're doing it. All of a sudden it's raining outside. It's raining, it's cold. Maybe your shoes are still wet from the day before or something. You can't afford to have a second pair of runners, so you're running in your wet shoes. Um, and you're like, you know what? I'm just nah, not today. This is bullshit. I've got 6 months. I'm not gonna do it, right? Nah, I'm not
Mm.
doing it. So you don't do it, right? If you know why you're doing it, and if you
Mm.
can see that every choice that you're making along the way is either taking you further to or further away, is either an investment or a debit in who you want to be, how you want to be once you achieve your goal. Any challenge you get along the way, all you need to do is remind yourself, no, this is why I'm doing it. This is who I
Mm.
want to be. This is who I am in order to get there. And I guarantee you'll be putting your shoes on every time I'm going for a run in the rain. It's
Mm.
but where people fall off is just not having that enough understanding of why they're setting targets. Um,
Mm.
and it's a bit of a trap with commercial. It's a bit of a trap with really strong communities in
Mm.
class gyms, particularly when you've got a lot of high achievers there. Um, because there can be, you can every time you go, you can be surrounded by people doing amazing things. They've got
Mm.
amazing physiques. They're doing ultra marathons. They're,
Mm.
deadlifting double body weight. They're doing handstands for a minute 40, whatever. Like all these
Mm.
amazing things, right? Men and women just crushing it into the gym. So as a general pop person going in and out of the gym every day, just trying to lose a bit of weight, just trying to feel a bit stronger, maybe get rid of a bit of back pain, sort out why your neck's sore all the time, just the
Mm.
basic stuff. You start viewing your effectiveness off these high achievers, and the
Mm.
gap can be quite unmotivating and quite, you know, um, quite challenging for people. And what can happen is they just eventually stop coming to the gym, or they don't go as often, or they come but they don't feel good about themselves when they're at the gym because
Mm.
they're just comparing themselves against these other people. So when the general pop people, just the everydayers like you and I, going into the gym, when you set the goal of I want to lose some weight, right? Or I want to sort my body composition out. You know, you want to take it a little bit further, and you want to ask yourself, well, why do I even care?
Mm.
Like, I don't mind if my friend's got a bit overweight. I don't mind. Like, why do I want to lose weight? What's it mean to me to lose weight? And
Mm.
then you can start unpacking that a little bit. And it might be because you want to be a better role model to your kids.
Mm.
That's something I heard all the time from mums and dads. I don't want my kid to see me overweight and think it's okay. I want to be a better role model,
Mm.
right? So they're healthy. That was a really common one. So then all of a sudden, it's not the goal isn't I want to lose weight. The goal is I want to be a good role model to my kid. Okay,
Mm.
cool. So let's unpack that a little bit more. What are other ways that you can be a great role model? Or what are ways that you're already being a great role model,
Mm.
you know? And then with that discussion, you can often start seeing that the individual that's coming to lose some weight who thinks that they're not a good role model starts to acknowledge, oh, actually, I'm doing a lot of really good things already.
Mm.
I'm already a really great role model. So what's a really good role model that's overweight that wants to sort it out look like? It looks like someone that's going to gym and showing people that there's a process. I'm going to stick to the process. I'm going to stay consistent. I'm going to stay disciplined, and
Mm.
over time, I'm going to get the result eventually, right?
Mm.
Now, as soon as you can show someone that, okay, you want to be a good role model for your kid, every time they start getting challenged about turning up to the gym, that's what they're thinking about. That's what you can talk about with them. Well, what would the role model do in this scenario? Would they turn up, or would they make an excuse and not turn up? You know,
Mm,
we're not even talking about weight loss anymore.
mm,
You know, so the more clear you can get on the real reasoning of your goals. They're the superpowers. They're the tricks for when all the known challenges are going to come to stop you
mm,
achieving your goal. They're coming. They're the reason why, and knowing it deeply is what gets you through that. So that's stuff I'm most passionate about these days, because I can see every single person that I come across has immense talent, has a incredible capacity, um, for the physical, for the mental, for the creative, um, for kindness. You know, there's some
mm,
people that's like their gift is kindness. They're just incredible community members.
mm,
Like I can see real magic in everybody. Um, and I feel really fortunate for that.
mm,
And the reason why I coach, I guess, is because I just love to be able to help people bring that out and experience it and feel proud about it, and just work towards, or just step into them, the best version of them, their self on any
mm,
given day. Mm.
mm. That's beautiful,
There
mate.
you go.
Thanks for the share.
All right.
Yeah,
All
it's
good. Mm.
you do see it a lot in the gym industry, and I think marketing takes it that way as well. Like, lose weight, lose 10 pounds, get strong. It's all superficial stuff, but I myself have experienced that, like we are talking about before with the Ironman. It was completely superficial goal. I didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing. Henceforth, the burnout. And then when I realized what I actually need, it wasn't any of that. It was
Yeah.
just that I just needed to feel good about myself with where I
Mhm.
was. As soon as
Mhm.
I felt that, I was like, oh, I don't even want to do that anymore.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
But
So,
it's so good, because the question is then, like, did you need to allocate as much time, as much money, as much energy, as much focus in order to just feel good about yourself? You know,
yeah. Yeah.
were there other ways that maybe wouldn't have burned out your CNS?
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
you're an expert in all this stuff now. Like, um, that's the
Mm,
case. So,
mm,
when you start thinking, like, once you start knowing, like, oh, look, once you start assessing your goals and really knowing why, you might actually realize as soon as you get to that proper understanding, that goal now doesn't even hold enough value to you anymore. So
mm,
you just scrap it, and then
yeah.
you create a new goal that's
Mm,
more accurate to what you're actually chasing.
yeah.
Um, which you see all the time. You see that all the
Mm,
time, which is fantastic. Another byproduct of this process is people will set a goal here. You start unpacking it, you start getting them to understand it, you start to understand it better yourself, you start creating a plan towards it, and then you realize that they're already going to surpass that goal straight away.
mm,
So you raise the bar, and
yeah.
that's an incredibly motivating moment for people once they realize that they were setting their bars too low.
Mm,
Um, for them, it's just that they're just doing it out of habit, because they just, for whatever reasons.
yeah.
Um, Once you remove those, unconscious sort of patterned reasoning and behaviors, you remove those, then they
Mm,
raise their bar, and all of a sudden they're crushing it,
I'm never going to
which is
give
really,
up. Yeah.
nah. Well,
Yeah. Mm,
that's the goal, hey. Mm.
yeah. Yeah. I notice it with my jujitsu. I'll always go to a session no matter what. But
Oh yeah.
with the same what you were saying before, if my shoes were wet, I wasn't going for a run. You know, you know what I mean? Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's
Mm.
congruency once again.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
understanding congruency, but
Mm,
it comes part, like, it's not an easy process to get there.
mm,
I feel really fortunate that I've done all the sports, done
yeah.
all the training,
You've had
done all
coaches
the
and everything.
had
Yeah.
coaches,
Yeah.
done all that type of
Takes
stuff. So I
time.
know that, yeah, I know the journey pretty well.
Mm,
But I used to own a couple of gyms, and I basically had like 6 years off coaching. Right, I went back to the marine world, jumped right back into skippering, and ended up in the Sollies and Papua New Guinea and stuff. Um, but that space, that break that I had from coaching, was just fantastic, because what it allowed me to do was reconnect with
mm,
people that don't go to gym, and
yeah.
reconnect with people that don't care about health, and reconnect with the vast majority of the population again. Um, And what I hadn't realized as a coach, because I was just so passionate and so focused and so dedicated when I had my gyms to my communities and to the people I was helping out, um, is I'd actually forgotten the starting point for all my
Mm,
clients, where they were coming from, what their perspectives were, what challenges they were facing. I was so far away from that, so extreme, is that
mm,
I'd lost the understanding of just the everyday challenges that come from being a parent and trying to get to the gym, or working a 9 to 5 and trying to get to the gym, or knowing what it feels like to have a sore back and still have to turn up to the gym and try and sort it
mm,
out. I'd forgotten all of even what it was like to enjoy a few beers every Friday night and Saturday night and still try and be healthy and everything, which is pretty much everybody, um,
mm,
except for the coaches.
mm,
um,
yeah.
so being able to reconnect with how the vast majority of people operate, um, has been such a gift, such a
Mm,
pleasure, and has actually expanded my awareness as a coach, um,
mm,
and also allowed me to engage in parts of life that have nothing to do with health and fitness, but are still really rewarding and really magical. Um, so bringing that perspective back into coaching now, it's um, it's radically sharpened my approach to
mm,
the individual that I'm working with now. Like, I really try and understand exactly where they're coming from,
mm.
and then create a toolkit that's going to work for them, for where they're coming from and where their day
Mm.
to day life is, not just in the gym. Mm.
Sounds like you got a deep understanding of empathy, very deep, and
Try to.
compassion. Yeah. No, you're doing
Try
it,
to.
mate. You're doing it. No
Mm.
trying.
Mm.
You're doing it.
Mm. Yeah.
So sort of to finish off, I would ask you, how do you perform your best every day? What's some tools that you use that make Lee Lee?
Righto. Well, let me start by saying I don't perform my best every day, but I try.
Of course,
I try my best.
to the best of what you have available every day.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? So that's exactly, you hit the nail on the head. So on any given day, you want to give your best, right? But say you've only got 40% out of 100 to give, right?
Mm,
The challenge isn't given 100%. The challenge is given that 40%.
mm,
So on any given day, know where you're like, I try and assess where I'm at. How much can I give today? How much energy can I give out today? Where's my state of mind at? How's my body feeling? Um, and then I just try and hit that. I try and hit how much I can give today and hit that. Now, sometimes I might have a plan in place for the day, try and get this much of a project done. But in the morning, if I wake up and I can feel, oh no, I'm actually still a bit fatigued from the
mm,
previous days, I might feel like my mood might be down a little bit, maybe my heart rate's up a little bit or something like that. And I'm like, oh no, I've actually got a little bit of, I'm carrying a bit of fatigue into today. I'll look at what I've planned for the day and then recalibrate it and just try and hit the best
mm,
I can for that day. So bringing that approach into my day to day, it doesn't necessarily, it's not letting yourself off the hook, because what you're actually doing is assessing what your capacity is for that day and then reaching it, not
mm,
surpassing it. Because as you understand, really well, if you constantly just hit it super hard every day and surpassing your actual capacity consistently,
mm,
you're just slowly slowly wearing out. And what I learned in the past, we can look at physical versus mental. If you are draining yourself physically, you're also reducing your intellectual and emotional capacity,
mm.
down the track as well. So that would
Yeah.
be that would be probably my biggest tip. Whatever
Mm,
you've got in a day, try and hit that, and make peace with the fact that some days you can't give 100%, but give all that you have on that
mm,
day.
mm.
That's my approach these days, and it's a nice one.
I,
Works for
I,
me.
I love that one. Yeah. Yeah. Because we're so inclined to work as hard as we can every day and like get results,
Yeah.
results sort of community. But, you know, you end up burn out, like you said.
Well, it's sexy, right? Like, high performance is sexy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's and taking dramatic action at the start of a goal is sexy. Everyone can take one dramatic action. All the marketing on socials and everything is all designed around this. It's like, it's showing you the end game all the time. But
Mm,
and it's sort of fun to be in that type of mindset. However, we still have a meat and bones part of who
mm,
we are that doesn't have unlimited energy attached to it. And the way that our blood chemistry and stuff works in relation to our thoughts and then also into our physical actions, that's actually the foundation for what our capacity is, so by just thinking the state of mind can take you to where you want to go all the time, it's not just the state of mind, that eventually your body is not going to keep up. It has to be a body and mind approach. And sometimes your nervous system might be really fatigued from the heavy squat session and deadlift session you did the day before. And it might be setting you up for the best decision making the following day if you have a high stakes task to do at work. So that's a basic example, but just understanding that you're allowed to be tired, you're allowed to be fatigued, you're allowed to be highly motivated, you're allowed to be everything, right? Just being strategic about how you go about your output can actually, over a longer period of time, be far more productive. Yeah, we underestimate how much we can get done in a year, and we overestimate how much we can get done in a day.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a good quote.
Not mine. I think I read it off a bumper sticker somewhere. It's a good one.
They're always the best ones, aren't they? Sometimes. Sure. That's awesome, mate. Thank you for that. Where can people find you? Are you having a workshop soon? Have you got another retreat soon, or?
Yeah, we've got a retreat coming up in April. I'll start putting that up on socials and things like that. But coming up at Vision Performance, just trying to lock in the date there to do a workshop, and then just around the sunny coast. But yeah, you can just jump on my personal Instagram, and if you got any questions, just reach out, and I'm happy to have a chat. No marketing, no sales. Just more than happy to connect and talk and go from there. Easy.
Thanks for jumping on, mate. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll leave your details in the show notes as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, brother.
Brilliant, mate.